You know, there's a quiet kind of heartbreak that happens when a strong, self-led woman falls for a man she can't quite read, can't quite reach, and definitely can't control. It's the moment when your steady world suddenly shakes, and you're left wondering, why him? Why now? If you're listening to this, take a slow breath with me. Let your shoulders drop a little. This is a gentle space, a place where we tell the truth without judgment, because so many women who stand tall in every room, who carry themselves with certainty and grace, often carry the deepest, oldest wounds in silence. And when a Sigma female falls for a man she can't control, everything she's built around herself starts to feel fragile for the first time in a long time. So what actually happens inside her? 1. Her emotional independence gets challenged in ways she didn't expect. A Sigma female's emotional independence is one of the strongest parts of who she is. She builds her life in a way that doesn't rely on anyone else to hold her together. She's comfortable in her own thoughts, her own routines, her own quiet. She doesn't lean too hard on people, and she definitely doesn't cling. She knows how to steady herself, how to pull back when she needs space, how to function without needing constant reassurance. It's a rhythm she's lived in for years, but everything shifts when she meets a man she can't predict. He doesn't respond in the patterns she's used to. He doesn't behave in ways she can anticipate. He doesn't follow any of the unspoken rules she built to keep her heart safe. And suddenly, she feels things she can't fit neatly into her usual structure. Her emotions don't follow her commands. Her mind can't categorize him. Her calm feels interrupted in a way that's both unsettling and strangely honest. She notices herself wondering what he's thinking, something she rarely wonders about anyone. She catches herself replaying moments with him, even when she tries to brush it off. She feels a tiny shift inside her, something like curiosity mixed with fear, mixed with interest she didn't ask for, and she hates that she can't control it. That's the part that shakes her. She's used to being the one who decides when to open up and when to close off. But with him, the decision doesn't feel entirely hers. The connection hits her in places she thought were sealed. It challenges her sense of emotional autonomy, not in a way that weakens her, but in a way that wakes up parts of her she hasn't touched in a long time. It's confusing, but it's also undeniably real. Pause right here. If this already feels a little too familiar, hit the like button so I know you're with me. All right, let's move. 2. She starts doubting her control, which she never doubted before. She starts doubting her control, and for a Sigma female, that is one of the most uncomfortable feelings in the world. She has shaped her life around the idea that she decides what she feels, when she feels it, and how deeply she lets anyone affect her. She's spent years mastering her reactions, not out of coldness, but because stability matters to her. She likes knowing where she stands. She likes moving through life without emotional chaos knocking her off balance. So when this man appears and her thoughts start drifting toward him at random moments, it throws her off. She doesn't understand why her mind is louder than her logic, or why her emotions step forward before she can quiet them. She'll catch herself thinking about the way he looked at her or something he said in passing, and that tiny replay is enough to annoy her. She isn't used to anyone having that kind of access to her mental space. She feels a tug she can't classify, and it bothers her more than she admits. She starts wondering why she can't shut the connection down the way she normally would, why her usual emotional boundaries feel softer around him, why she hesitates before pulling away. Control has always been her anchor, the thing that keeps her from getting lost in feelings that don't lead anywhere. But now it feels like she's losing small pieces of that control without even trying. Not in a dramatic way, but in subtle shifts she notices when she's alone. She'll tell herself she's fine, that she's not affected, that she can detach whenever she chooses. But the truth is quieter and harder to swallow. Some part of her is already invested, even if she never meant to be. And that realization creates a kind of internal friction she doesn't know what to do with. She's not afraid of him. She's afraid of what he awakens in her. Because the moment a Sigma woman feels something she can't regulate, She realizes she isn't as untouchable as she thought. And instead of pushing the feeling away, she sits with it, annoyed and intrigued at the same time. That's when she understands the real shift happening inside her. Control isn't slipping because she's weak. It's slipping because she's finally met someone who reaches her in ways she can't outthink. 3. She becomes hyper-aware of her own vulnerability. She becomes hyper-aware of her own vulnerability, and it catches her off guard more than anything else. A Sigma female is used to moving through life with a quiet steadiness. She doesn't crumble easily. She doesn't show her softer parts unless someone has earned it. Her emotions are something she manages internally, not something she hands out for free. But when she starts falling for a man she can't control, she notices tiny changes in herself that feel almost foreign. Her heart responds faster than her mind. Her body reacts before her reasoning kicks in. A single message from him shifts her mood more than she wants to admit, and the silence between texts feels louder than it should. She hates that she notices these things. She hates that she cares even a little. It makes her feel exposed, like someone just walked into a room she usually keeps locked. She starts paying attention to her own reactions with a kind of cautious curiosity. Why did she smile at his voice that way? Why did her chest tighten when he pulled back slightly? Why does she feel a mix of excitement and fear every time he steps closer to her emotionally? It's not weakness, it's awareness. Awareness that she has something to lose now, and she's not used to that feeling. She realizes vulnerability isn't just about trusting someone. It's about allowing someone to affect her, to influence her emotional world, to touch parts of her she doesn't show easily. And that scares her, not because she doubts her strength, but because she's spent years building a life where her heart isn't at the mercy of anyone else's actions. Now one man, without even trying, has access to places she usually guards with everything she has. She's not sure if she likes the feeling or hates it, but she can't deny it. Something in her is opening quietly and cautiously, and whether she's ready or not, she feels the shift. 4. She studies him quietly, trying to understand what makes him different. She studies him quietly, the same way she studies everything that matters to her. A Sigma female doesn't rush into feelings, and she definitely doesn't hand over her trust just because someone makes her heart skip once or twice. She watches, she observes, she pays attention to the small details most people miss. With this man, the observing becomes almost instinctive. She notices how he talks to people when he doesn't need anything from them. She watches the way he reacts when he's frustrated, when he's tired, when he's thrown off. She listens not just to his words, but to the pauses between them. She pays attention to whether he follows through on what he says, or if his promises float around without landing. She wants to understand what kind of man he is when no one is looking, because that's the part that matters to her. What draws her in even more is that he isn't easily readable. He doesn't reveal everything up front. He moves with a kind of privacy she respects, but also wants to understand. And that unfamiliar mystery pulls her into observation mode. She's not analyzing him to control anything. She's analyzing him to protect herself. She's trying to figure out whether he's someone who can handle her depth without running from it. She's trying to see if his calm is real or just an act. She's trying to understand if he's someone who creates safety or someone who creates confusion. She notices the way he looks at her, the things he doesn't say, the moments he withdraws, the moments he leans in. Every piece becomes data she files away quietly. She doesn't confront him. She doesn't interrogate him. She simply watches long enough to decide if he's worth letting in. And part of her hates that she even cares this much, because it means he's already affecting her. But another part of her is grateful for the chance to see him clearly. If she's going to let someone close, she needs to know they're real. Studying him is her way of finding out. Quick break. If you're still here, drop a single emoji in the comments that matches your mood right now. Something simple, something real. Okay, continuing on. 5. She starts fighting herself more than she's fighting the connection. She starts fighting herself more than the connection, and that's where the real conflict happens. A Sigma female is not afraid of distance, silence, or solitude. She knows how to detach without falling apart. She knows how to walk away from anything that threatens her peace. She's done it before, and she trusts her ability to do it again. But when she starts falling for a man she can't control, the battle doesn't happen between them, it happens inside her. She argues with her own feelings, telling herself she shouldn't care this much. She tries to downplay the pull she feels toward him, convincing herself it's nothing, just a moment, just a phase. She keeps trying to turn off the connection like a switch, but it never fully shuts down. She can go hours without thinking about him, but the moment something reminds her of him, her guard slips again. That bothers her. It makes her feel like she's losing grip on the emotional structure she built so carefully. She tells herself to stay neutral, stay rational, stay untouched, but her heart keeps nudging her in a different direction, and that tension becomes exhausting. One part of her wants to surrender to the connection, to see where it goes, to let herself feel something real for once. The other part wants to run before she gets in too deep, before he has the power to disappoint her or walk away. She fears the idea of depending on someone, even a little. She fears the idea of wanting something she can't control. She fears the idea that he might matter more than she planned. And this inner tug-of-war makes her quiet, thoughtful, distracted in ways she can't explain to anyone. She isn't fighting him. She's fighting the version of herself that wants to open up. She's fighting the softness she tried so hard to protect. She's fighting the part of her that believes this connection might actually be worth the risk. And deep down, she knows that once she stops fighting herself, everything will change. 6. She tests him without meaning to. She tests him without meaning to, not because she wants to play games, but because her heart doesn't know how to trust easily. A Sigma female has spent years building her emotional world with intention. She doesn't allow chaos inside it. She doesn't welcome inconsistency. She doesn't tolerate people who only show up halfway. So when a man enters her life and stirs something real, her instinct isn't to jump in. Her instinct is to observe how he handles the quieter, heavier parts of her nature. The testing isn't intentional. It shows up in small ways she barely notices. She pulls back slightly just to see if he reaches for her or lets the distance grow. She goes quiet during a moment of doubt, just to see if he senses the shift or ignores it. She expresses a boundary softly, just to see if he respects it or tries to bend it. These tests aren't traps. They're windows. She's trying to understand if he's someone who pushes, or someone who listens, someone who gets defensive, or someone who adjusts, someone who takes her seriously, or someone who treats her feelings like background noise. She needs to know how he moves when things aren't perfectly smooth, because any man can act loving when it's easy. She watches how he responds when she's overwhelmed, when she's distant, when she's not her polished, collected self. If he gets impatient, she folds back into her shell. If he gets confused and blames her for it, she detaches. If he dismisses the shift in her tone, she marks it quietly as a warning sign. But if he stays steady, if he listens, if he matches her depth with his own calm presence, something inside her softens. She doesn't need grand gestures. She doesn't need poetic words. She needs a man who doesn't get intimidated when she reveals her complexity. The unintentional tests reveal who he is beneath the surface, and once she sees the truth, her heart adjusts accordingly. She doesn't fall for effort. She falls for consistency. And the man who passes her unspoken tests without even realizing he was being tested becomes someone she finally lets closer. 7. She tries to walk away, but doesn't walk far. She tries to walk away, but she doesn't walk far, and that frustrates her more than anything else. A Sigma female is known for her ability to detach. When something feels wrong, she usually cuts the cord cleanly and keeps moving. She doesn't linger in places that don't honor her peace. She doesn't wait around hoping someone will change. She knows how to protect herself, and she trusts that instinct almost blindly. So when she feels herself developing feelings she can't control, her first response is distance. She pulls back, not because he did anything wrong, but because she's trying to regain her footing. She tells herself she's overthinking it. She tells herself she's better off staying in her safe, predictable rhythm. She tells herself he's not that important. She tries to fold the attraction into something smaller and easier to manage. And for a moment, she believes it's working. She distracts herself, stays busy, avoids reaching out, tries to shrink the way he occupies her mind. But then something happens. A memory, a small gesture he made, a sentence he said, a look he gave her, and suddenly the distance she created doesn't feel real anymore. She feels herself drifting back toward him without meaning to. Not all the way, but enough to know she's not done, enough to realize she isn't ready to cut the connection completely. It irritates her because she prides herself on emotional discipline, yet here she is, caught in a pull that defies logic. She tries again to step back, to shut the door gently, to return to her old sense of control. But the truth is simple and uncomfortable. She doesn't want to leave. Not fully. Not yet. Something about him feels unfinished. Something about him feels worth understanding. And even though she pretends she's walking away, she stays within reach, hoping he notices, hoping he meets her halfway, hoping she isn't the only one feeling something she can't name. She doesn't walk far because a part of her is curious, a part of her is open, and a part of her, the one she rarely listens to, whispers that maybe this connection deserves more time. Before we move on, make sure you're subscribed. I want you here for the next chapter of this story. All right, next part. 8. She slowly lets parts of herself soften around him. She slowly lets parts of herself soften around him, and it happens so quietly she barely notices at first. A Sigma female doesn't hand over softness easily. Her gentle side is private, reserved for the few who've proven they won't mishandle it. She's used to being composed, measured, and slightly guarded, even when she's being warm. But with him, the edges she usually keeps sharp begin to relax in ways she didn't plan. It starts with small things. She laughs a little easier around him, not the polite laugh she gives to the world, but the unfiltered one she saves for moments that feel safe. She lets conversations stretch longer than she normally would. She lets silence exist between them without feeling the need to fill it. She lets him see her when she's tired, not perfectly put together, not performing calm, just herself. These tiny shifts reveal more than she admits. She begins sharing stories she doesn't usually tell, memories she keeps tucked away, thoughts she only voices when she feels deeply understood. She notices she's letting him see pieces of her that don't come out for just anyone, and that realization is both comforting and terrifying. She hates that he can access her softness, but she also likes that she doesn't have to hide it. It feels unfamiliar, but it doesn't feel wrong. She starts caring about what he thinks, not in a dependent way, but in a way that shows she values his presence. She lets him offer support without brushing it off. She lets him hold emotional space for her without pretending she's fine. She lets herself be human around him, not the hyper-independent version of herself she presents to the world. This softening isn't weakness, it's acceptance. She's allowing him into the parts of her life she usually handles alone. And she only does that when she senses something genuine, something steady, something that feels like it might be worth the risk. Her softness becomes a quiet invitation, a signal that she's letting him in, slowly and deliberately. Not because she can't hold her own, but because, for once, she doesn't want to. So here's what I found. When a Sigma female falls for a man she can't control, she doesn't lose her strength. She expands it in ways she didn't expect. She doesn't collapse under the weight of emotions she can't manage. She evolves into someone even more aware of her own depth. She learns that vulnerability isn't a crack in her foundation. It's a doorway. It makes her more complete, more awake, more alive in a way she rarely lets herself be. She realizes she can feel deeply without losing herself, and that caring for someone doesn't erase the life she built on her own. This kind of connection doesn't weaken her independence. It deepens it. It gives her the space to be both strong and soft without apologizing for either. If you've ever fallen for someone who shook your world a little, tell me what surprised you the most about yourself. Your story might be the quiet reassurance another Sigma woman needs while she's trying to understand her own heart. And when you're ready, check out the next video on your screen. There's more here for you, more honesty, more softness, more strength wrapped in calm. Trust me, you'll feel understood.